Have you ever wondered why you still haven't achieved the life you dream of, even though you have faith? Why, despite praying, believing, and visualizing, something still seems to hold you back? Maybe you know that suffocating feeling of always being on the edge of transformation, but never quite making that final move. The truth is, many people live in this silent cycle. They believe faith is enough, but fail to see they're missing a crucial piece of the success puzzle: discipline. Before you assume that discipline is something cold, mechanical, or exhausting, let me share something that could completely shift your perspective. Discipline, when guided by faith, becomes the most powerful bridge between your dreams and your reality. It is the fuel for inspired action, and no one reveals this more clearly than Napoleon Hill, one of the greatest minds in human potential and personal achievement, who teaches that faith without continuous action becomes sterile. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might truly surprise you. Maybe you've said to yourself, "I have faith, I believe in my purpose, I know I can do it." And yet, you find yourself frozen by distractions, lack of focus, or that inner voice whispering, "Start tomorrow." Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Many people of faith hit this exact invisible wall without realizing that it's the absence of discipline quietly sabotaging their journey. Now, imagine combining the spiritual power of Psalm 27 with the practical mindset of Napoleon Hill. This psalm isn't just about waiting on God, it's about having courage, taking heart, and strengthening your spirit. Doesn't that echo Hill's principles? It absolutely does. When you act with bravery and perseverance, you're practicing a living faith. And that's where the magic happens, when spirituality meets strategic action. While the world screams for instant results, you'll come to realize that true success, the kind that's lasting, fulfilling, and purposeful, is born from the union of deep faith and daily discipline. That's the secret few actually live out. But from this moment on, you're going to see how this combination can transform your reality. What's coming next will open your eyes to something you may have never considered before. Psalm 27 as a spiritual roadmap for courage, focus, and action. And when you apply these principles with consistency, you'll finally break free from the cycle of stagnation and walk toward the life God has already prepared for you. Are you ready? Because what comes next is exactly what your soul has been waiting to hear. And maybe right now, something inside you is starting to click. Maybe you're realizing it's not a lack of faith. It's a lack of structure, direction, and discipline aligned with your beliefs. And listen, that's not your fault. Most of us were never taught how to turn faith into real action. But here, in this journey, is where you begin to reclaim that power. And if at any point these words stirred something in you, if they reminded you of a situation, a broken promise, or a dream that's been postponed, I want to ask you something simple, yet deeply powerful. Leave a comment sharing what touched you the most so far. It could be a phrase, a feeling, a reflection. When you share, you strengthen your intention. And more than that, you help others who might be facing the same silent struggle. Oh, and if you feel that this message is speaking directly to your soul, go ahead and hit that like button. Not just because it supports the video, but because that small action shows that you value content that makes you think, grow, and transform. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't yet. This space is built with and for people like you who want more from life, more purpose, more clarity, more faith in action. Your presence here is what helps this channel grow and reach more people with this message of real transformation. Every comment, every like, every subscription, it's a seed we're planting together. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. Now take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear next might be exactly the spark you've been waiting for. There's a hidden truth in Psalm 27 that, when truly understood, completely transforms the way you see faith, action, and results. This psalm is not just a prayer for protection or hope. It's a manual for inner strength. It's an invitation to rise from passive waiting and embrace a faith that moves. The verse, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart," is not about passive patience, but about active waiting, bold, courageous, full of posture and conviction. It's about standing firm even when the world is falling apart. It's about taking action even when everything tells you to stop. Napoleon Hill once said that faith is a state of mind that may be induced by autosuggestion. In other words, believing isn't magic. It's a trained, nurtured state built by what you do daily. Just as the psalmist says that God strengthens the hearts of those who wait on him with courage, Hill shows us that this strength only manifests when the mind is disciplined and determined to move forward, even in the midst of chaos. Now, I want to go even deeper, because so many people read this psalm, pray with passion, but keep waiting as if they have no power. The truth is, the scripture itself challenges that passivity. Be of good courage. That phrase carries a command for action, for inner movement. It's not about sitting still waiting for a miracle to fall from the sky. It's about rising with boldness, even with no guarantees. Hill reinforces this by saying that great achievers don't wait for perfect conditions. They create them through firm decisions and consistent effort. Behind your transformation, there's a choice that must be made daily: to remain standing, with courage, even when everything tries to knock you down. That's the kind of faith that creates real impact, that attracts divine provision, that sets the unseen gears of destiny in motion. It's a rooted faith, one that withstands the wind. And this is exactly the kind of active faith that connects Psalm 27 with Napoleon Hill's principles. Both point toward a path where your mind, your actions, and your spirituality move in perfect alignment. Can you feel it? This blend of spiritual, revelation, and practical mindset is what gives birth to true prosperity. A strong mindset isn't built on pretty quotes or memorized verses. It's forged in practice, in the silence of your daily life, in those moments when you simply choose to keep going. As verse 3 of the psalm says, "Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear." That's unshakable mindset. And that's exactly the kind of strengthened faith you need to walk your journey. Drop a comment. I'm on this journey too, just so I know you're feeling this with me. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because there's a silent pain that many people carry but rarely express. It's that frustration of knowing you have faith, that you dream big, that you believe in your purpose. But when you look at your reality, it feels like you're always stuck in the same place, like something invisible pulls you back every time you try to move forward. And that something has a name: procrastination, a subtle but powerful enemy. It wears the mask of distraction, self-sabotage, and "I'll do it later." And when you finally realize it, months, sometimes years, have gone by, and your projects are still on paper. What's most unsettling is that you're not stuck because you lack dreams. You're stuck in spite of them. And that hurts, because your mind reminds you every day of the life you could be living. But discipline never shows up. And without it, your faith spins in circles without direction. Napoleon Hill is very clear about this. Procrastination is the common enemy which practically every person must conquer. He knew that a powerful idea without execution is just an idea, that faith without daily action gets lost in the noise of routine. And look at how the Bible confirms this. In James 2:17 it says, "So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead." That hits hard, doesn't it? Procrastination in this context isn't just a delay in tasks. It's what suffocates your faith before it ever becomes real. It's an emotional, spiritual, and practical delay that keeps your days the same, even when your soul is crying out for change. Behind this paralysis is a mental pattern that needs to be broken, the belief that you need to feel motivated before taking action, when in truth, it's action that creates motivation. That reversed logic is what traps so many people in a cycle of endless waiting. Hill teaches there is no such thing as the right time, and the psalmist echoes it. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. In other words, if God already gave you the vision, the next step is yours. Heaven is waiting for your movement. This feeling of stagnation that so many experience comes exactly from the disconnect between what we believe and what we do. It's like trying to light a flame with faith, but no match. Discipline is that match. It's the habit that sparks the fire of accomplishment. And when you finally understand this, you realize it's not about doing everything in one day. It's about doing what matters every day, even when you don't feel like it. That's the foundation of transformation. Drop a comment. This makes sense to me, just so I know this message is helping you see things in a new light. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a powerful revelation that, once truly understood, flips a switch in your mind and heart. Faith without discipline is an illusion. That phrase might sound harsh at first, but it's actually liberating. Napoleon Hill speaks clearly about this. He doesn't romanticize success. To him, success is the result of applied faith, not just felt. In Think and Grow Rich, he introduces the concept of definiteness of purpose. In other words, having a defined purpose. That's more than just having a vague dream. It's knowing exactly what you want and taking consistent action to get there. And as spiritual as that might sound, it's firmly rooted in Scripture. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." But Hill would say that this certainty must be accompanied by a plan, by organized action, because without a plan, faith becomes loose hope. And loose hope builds nothing, it only feeds anxiety. What many people don't realize is that discipline isn't just about waking up early or working out. It's about keeping your mind aligned with your purpose. It's about making choices that support the life you say you want. Hill says, self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. And here's the core truth. If you don't master your thoughts, they'll sabotage your decisions. They'll convince you it's not the right time, that you're not ready, that maybe you should wait a little longer. And in the meantime, days pass. Frustration grows. Faith cools. Psalm 27 reminds us again, "Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear." Why could the psalmist say that with such conviction? Because he had purpose. He knew whom he believed in. That's definiteness of purpose in action. Having faith isn't just about waiting for things to change. It's about being so convinced of the promise that you act as if it's already real. That's the posture that activates what Hill calls organized, intelligent action. And there's more. Hill points out that one of the greatest tragedies is seeing people with potential stuck in cycles, simply because they lack direction. What looks like bad luck is often just a lack of discipline. The journey to success requires more than belief. It requires structure. And that structure begins in your mind, flows into your habits, and manifests in your results. It all starts with one decision: to take ownership of your path. Drop a comment. I'm owning my journey. Just so I know, you felt the power of this decision too. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because most people see discipline as something cold, technical, even too harsh. But there's a hidden truth that completely changes this perception. Discipline, when guided by faith, is a spiritual act. It's a sacred commitment to what you say you believe in, and that changes everything. It's no longer about following a routine out of obligation. It's about walking a path with purpose. Discipline becomes a form of prayer in motion, a daily declaration that you're taking seriously what you've been asking God for. Napoleon Hill understood this deeply. He said, self-discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. It's like the link between the invisible and the tangible. You pray, you visualize, you believe. And then discipline turns all of that into continuous action. It's what gives shape to your miracle. It's what holds you together on the days when motivation disappears and keeps your vision alive, even when results haven't yet shown up. And look at how this aligns with the Bible. In 1 Corinthians 9:27, the Apostle Paul says, "But I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified." That's spiritual discipline. It's putting your flesh in service of your mission. And once you understand this, you begin to see discipline in a whole new light. It's not punishment, it's covenant. It's what keeps you grounded when your emotions waver. It's what gets you up early, not because it's trendy, but because your mission is greater than your comfort. How many times have you felt lost, without direction, even though you had faith? That disconnect usually happens because faith is present, but discipline is missing. And without it, you get lost in the maze of your own mind. I've seen ordinary people go through radical transformation once they understood this. A woman who was drowning in debt, emotionally exhausted and frustrated, made a decision to apply a disciplined routine of faith and action. Every day she prayed, declared her goals, wrote down her commitments, and took at least one practical step toward financial freedom. Today, she's not only debt-free, she's an inspiration to others. And you know what she told me? My faith was strong, but it was discipline that made it stand. Psalm 27 is clear once again. The Lord is the strength of my life. And strength here doesn't mean passivity. It means energy, consistency, spiritual discipline. True strength comes from the union of what you believe and what you do. When that union happens, you become unstoppable. You stop just asking and start building. Discipline becomes your daily answer to God. I'm ready. Drop a comment. Discipline is faith in action, just so I know this truth resonated with you. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because understanding all of this is valuable, but living it is where true transformation begins. There's no point in feeling inspired if you don't take action. Real change happens when knowledge becomes practice. And this is where your personal commitment begins, to your faith, your journey, and your purpose. Napoleon Hill once said, "Action is the real measure of intelligence." And I'd add, it's also the reflection of true faith, because those who truly believe take action. Let's bring this into your everyday life. Nothing great has to begin with huge steps. Most personal revolutions start with one small gesture done consistently. So, I want to invite you to take on a simple but powerful challenge. For the next 7 days, choose one single act of discipline to practice every day, but with one essential detail. It must be connected to your faith. This isn't about doing just for the sake of doing. It's about doing with intention, with awareness, with spiritual alignment. It could be waking up 30 minutes earlier to pray and plan your day with focus. It could be writing down a daily affirmation each night, based on a biblical promise you want to activate in your life. It could be finally starting that financial plan you've been postponing for months. What matters is that the action is yours, that it represents you, that it aligns you with who you want to become. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed." That's the spirit of this challenge. It's not about empty routines. It's about building a new inner standard, a new rhythm, a new spiritual habit that pulls you forward every single day. Hill would call this persistent action with purpose. The Bible calls it obedience and diligence. I call it a commitment to your transformation. And here's the most amazing part. This kind of challenge creates an impact far beyond what you imagine. Because when you start acting with consistency, something inside you begins to shift. Your mindset realigns, your emotions stabilize, and what once felt distant starts to feel possible. It's in these small daily actions that the impossible starts to give way to the inevitable. When you decide to act, even in small steps, but every day, you begin to live your faith in a tangible way. And that's when the behind the scenes of your life start to reorganize. Drop a comment. I accept the challenge, just so I know you're ready to put into practice what you've just learned. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because it's not enough to simply decide. Transformation happens when that decision takes shape in your daily life. The routine you build determines the direction of your journey. And when that routine is guided by spirituality and a positive mindset, the results aren't just external, they touch your soul. This is where Psalm 27 meets Napoleon Hill. Both show us that victory begins on the inside and manifests on the outside. Hill often speaks about clear focus and persistent action. The Bible invites us to the same practice. In verse 14 of Psalm 27 it says, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart." Waiting here doesn't mean sitting still. It means staying firm, focused, spiritually and mentally active. And that's why I want to show you how to build a success routine based on these two pillars. It all starts with prayer, but not just any prayer. It's prayer with purpose. It's when you talk to God with clarity about what you're seeking, asking for guidance on what you've chosen to pursue. Napoleon Hill would call this definiteness of purpose, knowing exactly what you want. It's like switching on a light in the dark. Suddenly everything becomes visible. Then comes planning. Discipline doesn't come from motivation, it comes from a plan. You need to organize your days so they serve your calling, not chaos. And that means writing things down, reviewing, adjusting. It may sound simple, but this is where many people give up because it takes effort. But it's that effort that reshapes your mindset. Next comes visualization with faith. Hill emphasizes the power of seeing with the eyes of the mind what does not yet exist physically. And that perfectly aligns with Hebrews 11:1, which says, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." To visualize with faith is to start your day emotionally connected to what you want to manifest. It's to feel the victory before it arrives. Finally, concrete action. No spiritual routine is complete without it translating into action. This is where you break old patterns, build new habits, and plant the seeds that will become your harvest. Every act aligned with your purpose brings you one step closer to turning dreams into reality. This routine might feel intense at first, but once it becomes part of who you are, everything changes. It protects you from distraction, pulls you away from procrastination, and draws you into a level of clarity and personal authority you never imagined possible. Drop a comment. I'm shaping my routine with faith, just so I know you're putting this into practice with me. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because maybe you're listening to all of this and thinking, okay, it makes sense, but does it really work in real life? And that doubt is natural. When we're tired of trying, of starting over, of believing without seeing results, our faith starts to lose its strength. But that's exactly where real-life testimonies come in. Because nothing teaches more powerfully than seeing transformation actually happening in the lives of ordinary people, just like you and me. I remember a story that deeply impacted me. A simple man, father of 2, unemployed, drowning in debt and with shattered self-esteem. He told me he had heard it all. Motivation, promises, advice. But nothing truly changed because deep inside, he felt trapped. Then, one of those nights when silence feels the loudest, he opened his Bible to Psalm 27. And something about that verse, "Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart," hit him differently. He realized he needed to move. His faith was real, but it had been lulled to sleep by a lack of discipline. That very day, he decided to build a spiritual routine. He started with what he had. He woke up at 5 a.m., prayed, read a passage from the Bible, wrote down 3 goals and 1 single daily action to move toward them. Napoleon Hill speaks exactly about this: clarity of purpose and disciplined action. It's not magic, it's spiritual structure paired with practical decisions. He told me that at first it felt pointless. Nothing seemed to happen, but he kept going. And in less than 3 months, signs of transformation began to show. He landed a part-time job, then a full-time one. He went back to school, paid off his first debt. And the most beautiful part? He rebuilt his relationship with his wife and children because the discipline that began in his faith spread into every part of his life. Today, he lives with purpose. He still faces challenges, don't we all? But now he knows where he stands. He knows whom he believes in, and he has a mindset aligned with heaven. That is transformation. That is the impact of faith in action. And that's exactly what Psalm 27 teaches us. You don't need to see everything clearly to start. You just need to be strengthened on the inside. Act with consistency and let God direct your steps. Drop a comment. This makes sense to me, just so I know this story touched you and that you're also walking through this awakening process. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because after everything that's been said, every reflection, every truth revealed, there comes a crucial moment in the journey: the decision to commit. And I'm not talking about the kind of decision you say out loud with good intentions that fade the next day. I'm talking about a real commitment, firm, personal, maybe even silent, but powerful enough to change the direction of your life. Napoleon Hill taught that the true turning point begins with a clear and non-negotiable decision. And the Bible confirms this. In Joshua 24:15, there's a declaration that still echoes today. Choose this day whom you will serve. Transformation begins when you truly choose to live in alignment with what you believe. And that choice doesn't happen through words alone. It's revealed in the actions you take when no one is watching. It shows up when you choose to rise, even when you're tired. When you decide to stay focused, even when surrounded by distractions. When you say no to what slows you down and yes to what brings you closer to your purpose. Because discipline isn't harshness, it's maturity. And faith, when it matures, no longer lives off emotions. It moves through conviction. Do you see the impact of that? It's not about becoming someone else overnight. It's about deciding today that you're willing to align yourself with a new mindset, that you're ready to make your faith practical, that you're done postponing your own transformation, that you're ready to live what you pray for, to declare with your actions what you believe in your heart. Psalm 27 has been calling you to this from the start. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? That's not a rhetorical question. It's a reminder that when you walk in light, you also move with courage. When you know who walks with you, fear no longer holds you back. Hill taught that the great achievers are those who don't wait for permission or perfect conditions. They take ownership of their own story. And with God, that ownership isn't about control. It's about answering the call with action. Faith without response is faith suffocated. And you weren't born to suffocate your faith. You were born to activate it with discipline, with focus, with perseverance. It doesn't matter how your story began. What matters is what you choose to do now. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you felt it was time for a change. And if this message made sense to you, if it brought clarity, direction, or even that confirmation you needed to hear today, then do this: hit the like button. Not for me, but for the connection we've built together throughout this conversation. It helps this kind of message reach more people who truly need it. And while you're at it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because here we don't just talk about faith or just mindset. We combine both to create real, lasting transformation, step by step, always rooted in practical tools, deep spirituality, and action-driven focus. Oh, and let me know in the comments if you stayed until the end by writing, "I will act with faith and discipline." I want to see who's walking this journey with me all the way to the last second. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into everything we've talked about. Click it and come with me. Let's keep growing, one step of faith and discipline at a time.